All right, you've got 29 guys here and you're cramming them with a bunch of information, one of those things being brotherhood. But if brotherhood was a class, what would be the first lesson in that?
Ooh, it would be an awesome class, number one. I think the first lesson is for them to learn the standard. And that's an actual document that the players before this class has written up a standard for self accountability to one another. So part of that being that unconditional support and knowing to be part of this brotherhood, you're going to have to push one another. And but learning the standard would be job number one.
So my partner is Sean, and he's going to have a veteran class that's going to be pushing him. He's going to be learning under some of the best. Your offensive line have played together consistently. What does that mean for a player like him coming in?
I think he is coming into the ideal situation because he is part of a group that is really tight, really close, and the best teams I've been a part of are really tight and really close in the locker room before they get out on the field. They'll also be there to help watch him. And if they know what he's trying to improve upon and explains that, then they'll be looking for that too. Hey, I saw your footwork today. I saw what you're trying to improve on. So in our group, and specifically in the offensive line room, they're totally trying to take it to a new spot. And so he's coming into the ideal group of guys to do that.
Well, I think so too. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Hey, Parlay Pete, man, thanks for that suggestion to start off the pod because, everybody who tunes into this show knows what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the Falcons hire, and the only thing I can think about of is brotherhood.
Well, because it certainly is just an extension of said brotherhood, correct? I mean,
did the good old boys club finally work for a black man?
Yes and no. I think that at the end of the day, this was a hire that was made sheerly off of culture. I'll start off with that. I honestly do believe that was like put into consideration. Culture, familiarity, and safeness. Like there was like a safeness to this hiring. And it doesn't mean that he didn't deserve a head coaching job. The question is, in this cycle, did he deserve this coaching job? My answer is no.
Right. And for those of you that don't know who we're talking about Raheem Morris being hired today as the Falcons head coach. Raheem Morris, Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator for the Rams, former assistant head coach for the Falcons, receivers coach, passing game coordinator, D-backs coach. He was a D-backs coach for the Buccaneers when they won their Super Bowl under Rich McKay.
Yeah. Whole lot of ties.
Yes. Another coach from the McVay tree. That's how they're going to frame it. Gets a job. Although he was a head coach before McKay. Before McVay, he worked with McVay back in Washington. Nonetheless, Raheem Morris is the Falcons head coach. And we talked about this in pre-production, and I look at this hiring like this. We talk all the time about black coaches getting opportunities, getting jobs where they can be set up for success. We do go through all of these retreads, and a lot of the black coaches don't get those same opportunities, And then, hey, Raheem Morris is a retread, although he hasn't been a head coach for, almost 15 years?
2011 was his last season, so 13, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. And here's the thing. If I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, he was the youngest head coach in NFL history when he did get hired initially.
Well, he's
actually speaks volumes about him, too. I think as a coach that he was giving keys that early.
Absolutely. And he's still a young head coach. But, we talk about these retreads getting an opportunity. We talk about giving black coaches opportunities where there's a decent roster, there's decent cap space, so they can be set up for some form of success within the first couple of years of that contract. And now it finally falls at our doorstep. And you and I are not the most excited about this because we thought there were better candidates out there. And I liken it to so many of the liberals who say, hey, we should open up those borders. We need to get those immigrants, those refugees to safe places. Then they get mad at governors in Florida, Texas for busing those immigrants right to their doorsteps. That's how I look at this. And Falcons fans, some of us are being hypocrites here because at the end of the day, hey, I this problem needs to be fixed, but don't fix it in my backyard.
It's a problem that needed to be fixed. And I think that when I look at the hire, and we spoke about this already, I think that he's a good coach. Like, I don't want that to go underneath everything that I'm about to say, because that is the truth. The truth of the matter is he is a good coach. He probably should have been a head coach again since his firing. I do think that he's a good coach. You hear nothing but good things around the league about him. We've got an up close and person look at him because he was the interim coach already here. The last person to coach a game before Arthur Smith was not Dan Quinn. It was Raheem Morris. So we did get a good look at him. We went 4-7 in those games, and the record doesn't speak for how well he handled the team, considering we were 1-4 when Dan got fired after a Monday night stinker against Green Bay, where, if I remember correctly, I just remember circling, there was like one defensive pattern, which he was the DC, by the way, but there was like a pattern of like receivers running routes, and there were like 3 people open. Like on one play, they all would have been touchdowns. And, he chose who he wanted to get the ball to that time. But we're not even going to bring up one play 3 or 4 seasons ago. Let's talk about the hire. I think he's a good coach. I think that we left a lot to be desired out there for the fan base, in a sense of we're familiar with this guy. We do know about him. He is a good coach. Why would you want to bring back something that was a part of what it is you're trying to get rid of? And that to me,
here's one thing I'll say, probably, Pete. Him as the DC under a defensive head coach, how much control did he have on running his defense the way that he wanted to? And with him being just a defensive coordinator and not being a significant part from how we view it of choosing his groceries. I mean, because at that point you got DQ, you got TD, and you got Rich going to Publix. And maybe Raheem was a Whole Foods guy. Or maybe he was a Kroger guy. Or maybe he was a fucking Food Line guy, Piggly Wiggly guy. Like, hey, man, I can get these ingredients, and I promise you won't know the difference in my meal. But you're giving him ingredients. You're asking a soul food, a old school soul food cooking ass nigga to go be an Italian chef. Both taste great. But I ain't never had no pig feet pasta. I ain't saying it ain't good, but I ain't never seen it. Oh. Shout out to Travis.
There's that aspect of it, and then there's just the idea of, well, we've got Emerald Lagasse sitting right there in front of us. Emerald sitting right there. And all he's saying is that, look, I've made the best dishes in the world. Everybody has loved my dishes. Everybody in Boston is forever grateful. That dish, they'll say, nah, the greatest I've ever seen was when Emerald came and cooked this meal for me. It was the best dish I ever had. Over anything my mama made, my daddy barbecuing, anything. I ain't ever had, nobody's done cooked up a meal like I have. But I got to get my ingredients in order to do it. I like the ingredients you guys already have here. I'm going to work with that because it's already in the kitchen. But from this point on, I got to get my ingredients. Time out. You can't have those ingredients. My question is, was that the, fork in the road? Was that what swayed us away from getting the greatest coach of all time? Was it the idea that he
don't think so.
Grocery steal?
I don't think so. Because seeing the diminished role that Rich is now going to have on the with Falcons group or the AMG group itself, right? He's going to be more focused on the soccer side of the house. He's going to be on the operation side of the house, but he's not going to be on the football side of the house. Maybe it's Terry saying, "Hey, if you want me to be the GM, allow me to be the GM and not just be the GM in title." Maybe it was more of Belichick interviewing the Falcons versus the Falcons interviewing Belichick. Obviously, we know Bill Belichick, he keeps a lot of stuff close to the vest, so he doesn't get it out that he kind of made demands that he crossed the line knowing that he wasn't going to be able to come back from that. And it was Belichick telling the Falcons no instead of the Falcons telling Belichick no. I think that's part of it. But I also think that, you know, Emerald did great things. But then, cable TV slowed down a lot. There became less, you got less viewers. Everybody's not tuning into Emerald Lagasse's show to watch him cook a meal because you can hop online and pull up his whole recipe book. And hey man, you were him then, but lately you haven't been him. And the way you go about building out your menu, the way you go about executing that menu is not the way that we want to run this restaurant here. So yes, you have the track record over time, but what have you done for me lately? And what you've done for me lately has not been up to the standard that we're willing to take a bet on when there are other great candidates out here who we think are more aligned in the direction that we want this restaurant to go. Maybe Bill wanted to be a great steakhouse and the Falcons wanted to be McDonald's.
Maybe. And look, what does it say on McDonald's as marquee? Billions and billions served, right? So if that is the case, why do we keep bringing back the McRib? You know? And there's nothing wrong with the McRib. Some people like the McRib. There were good things about the McRib.
When's
right?
the last time you've eaten a McRib?
I haven't. And so it was never one of those things that I ate. It's not my cup of tea. But like, why do we want to keep bringing back the McRib?
Because niggas is buying it.
How many niggas are buying it? Because I haven't seen, and I get it. Maybe they rebranding this McRib. Maybe this McRib is better than any of the other McRibs, and they'll come out and they'll say it's 100% beef, 100% pork, wherever they're getting the rib from. I don't know if it's a pork rib or a beef rib, but I tell you what, for the sake of this, let's just say it's pork. Because it probably is. It probably is pork. It's probably a mix. It's probably really what it is. But we've already had it. We know what it is. Why don't we try and do something different at McDonald's? Why don't we offer a gourmet burger, even if that's not our lane? Why not do something different? Damn it! Like, why are we reverting back to something that we already know about?
Why did you go back to your ex?
Because the sex is good. If that's going to be the case, like typically that's what does it. It's the sex is good. Either that or we've tried something else and it just wasn't it. And it's just like, I really did like this.